Division Superintendent, Dr. Edelberto L. Oplenaria, to our newly installed Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Rosemary Timas Cesar, to our SGOD team, headed by SGOD Chief Dr. Maria Carmela T. Ablin, to our CID team, headed by CID Chief Dr. Arlene C. Carbonera, to our supportive school heads, active teachers, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant day. So today, I will be talking about designing today, I will be talking about designing an experimental action research. So this is one of the most debated research design in the field of action research because according to scholars, this shouldn't be experimental because in the field of education, our learners should not be guinea pigs or be subjected to experiments. However, until then, until the name of experimental research action research design isn't changed yet, so we need to use the term experimental action research design in the field of education. But before we delve to the specifics of experimental research action research design, so we need to know what are the specific objectives at the end of the session. So first is that we need to describe experimental research design. Number two is that we need to differentiate three different types of experiments. And last, we need to determine the appropriate type of experiment for a given action research topic. Now, the question is, how important is action research design in the implementation of the research? Well, the action research design is used to structure the research from beginning to the end. So it is our blueprint on how we are going to answer our research questions. According to Trochim 2005, action research design provides the glue that holds the research project together. Now, let's have the key understandings for the experimental research design. So, experimental research action research design determines causation or cause and effect relationship between variables. Therefore, it involves the manipulation of an independent variable to see its effect on a dependent variable. So what do we mean by manipulation of an independent variable? So in the education's point of view, it refers to the provision of an intervention or a teaching strategy or an innovation in order to change, or shall we say to positively affect the scores or performance of the learners. And also, experimental research design has three types. So it is the pre-experimental research design, the quasi-experimental research design, and true experimental research design. All of these experiments involve manipulation of an independent variable. Now, before we discuss the three types of experimental research design, let us have the two groups involved during the experiment. So we have here the experimental group, or the group that receives the intervention or the treatment, and the control group, or the group which does not receive the intervention or the treatment. For example, in the study, Improving Learners' Arithmetic Skills Through Concrete Pictorial Abstract Instructional Sequence, the control group here is not exposed to the concrete pictorial abstract instructional sequence. Therefore, the learners under the control group are not exposed to the intervention we are having. Next is the experimental group, or the group is which is exposed to the concrete pictorial abstract instructional sequence. Therefore, the learners under the experimental group receives the intervention or the treatment. We have here the types of experimental research design: the pre-experimental, the quasi-experimental, and the true experimental research design. In the pre-experimental research design, it does not have a control group nor randomization of participants. And in the quasi-experimental research design, it has a control group but does not use randomization of participants. In the true experimental group, it has a control group and uses randomization of participants. So as what you may read here, all types of experimental research design talks about randomization. What does randomization mean? So randomization means it is a process of selecting the participants in such a way that everyone from the target population has a chance of being selected. Therefore, anyone from the target population can be a participant of your action research. So in the pre-experimental research design, we have here the experimental group. It does not have a control group. Therefore, only the experimental group will take the pre-test, after which they will receive the treatment or be exposed to the intervention, and they will take the post-test. In the quasi-experimental research design, it has experimental group and also the control group. However, there is no randomization and control in both groups. So in the pre-test, the experimental group will take the pre-test, will receive the treatment, and then take the post-test. On the other hand, control group will also receive the pre-test, but there is no treatment. The pupils under the control group, or shall we say the learners under the control group, won't receive any intervention or will not be exposed to a teaching strategy or a modified teaching strategy, after which they are going to take the post-test. In the true experimental research design, we have still two groups. However, there is randomization and control. Therefore, in both groups are not predetermined. There is a randomization. You are going to combine certain groups of pupils, or so, after which you are going to randomly select them as experimental or control group through random sampling. Next is the experimental group will be subjected to a pre-test and then be exposed to the treatment, and then they will take the post-test. On the other hand, the control group will take the pre-test, well, that's pre-test, and there will be no treatment on the control group. So they will not be exposed to the intervention. Right after, they will take the post-test. Now let's have some activity. So in this time, I want you to comment below on what kind of experimental research design we are going to use given the situations. Okay, so in this slide, we can read the purpose of the experiment. It is to determine if the use of manipulative will help grade 8 students understand the concepts in geometry. So there is application of the intervention, which is the manipulatives. There are only 2 sections in grade 8. Section Mahogany is assigned as experimental group, students who will be using manipulatives in geometry class, and Section Nara is assigned as control group, which students will be taught geometry without the use of manipulatives. Now, I want you to comment below what kind of experimental research design we are going to employ given this purpose of experiment. So I will give you 15 seconds. Okay, great. It is a quasi-experimental research design. So going back, so as we may see, section mahogany is assigned as experimental group and section Nara is assigned as control group. There are two predetermined groups. No randomization was done during the conduct of the action research. Therefore, this is a quasi-experimental research design. In the next slide, we have here the purpose of the experiment to study the gains in performance of a class of grade 10 student volunteers after an intensive 20-day summer workshop on English grammar. Only one group is involved, composed of students who wanted to join the workshop and who lived close to the school. Implementation of the intervention, intensive workshop on English grammar. So I will give you 15 seconds to answer on the comment section what kind of experimental research design we are going to employ if we have this purpose, or shall we say objective of the experiment. Okay, timer starts now. Well, very good. It is pre-experimental research design. So going back, so let us discuss why is this pre-experimental. There is only one group. No control group is involved. We have only one group, which is the experimental group. So the class of grade 10 student volunteers. So they are subjected to the intervention. So that's pre-experimental research design. Next is the purpose of the experiment is to determine if the integration of video clips in teaching science is effective in improving the academic performance of one grade 5 section, which is selected randomly from 10 heterogeneous sections, in comparison with that of another grade 5 section, also selected randomly, that receives only the traditional lecture discussion. Employment of video clips in instruction for one section randomly assigned as the experimental group, and classroom lecture and discussion for the other section also randomly assigned as the control group. So I will give you 15 seconds in order to answer this. What is the experimental research design suited for this study? Very good. It's a true experimental research design because, as we may see, there is randomization of the selection of participants as to what group they are going to be. We have here the control group and the experimental group. Also, as to what section is going to be the control group and the experimental group, it is also randomly assigned. Therefore, in this research design, we need to employ the true experimental. So I guess that would be all for today. Thank you. And once again, mabuhay. Hope we conduct action research in the future.